on whether or not we are going to have community engagement or housing in the fall. Other than that we need
Under number 8. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Good. The okay, seeing none, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, we have no bylaws, that we have, so delegations. And,
Yes.
I'm trying to go through here fast. You have 2 sets of minutes there, the 11th and the 25th.
To adopt as distributed. Second.
Others, solutions. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, delegations. And again, we'd like to welcome you, Staff Sergeant Day, to Vanderhoof. This is I've met you, and we really appreciate that. And so, anyways, I'd like to maybe turn it over to you and just work.
Would you like me to stand or sit
You
or?
can sit right there, that's great. Whichever is comfortable, but sitting is good. Okay.
Thank you for the invite to this important meeting. I thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself to yourselves, the council, as well as the community. Kevin Day. I transferred here recently from Vancouver Island. I was working at Island District Headquarters there, and I'm in my 31st year of policing. So I have lots of service behind me. I've had various experiences, primarily frontline policing during my career. This is my 8th detachment, and my wife and I, Nicole and I, are very excited to embark on this new journey. We're very excited to. We look at this as an opportunity to kind of get back to some roots. In that I grew up in a small town in Alberta. I love the agricultural ranching communities, and Vanderhoof just presents itself that way in so many ways. We enjoy the beauty that surrounds it. The more and more, this is my 3rd week, I guess, and as of Wednesday, I will have 3 weeks here. Getting to know the community, but really appreciating the community thus far. Welcome that we've received is fantastic. We look very forward to getting to know the community more and getting involved in the community more as well. You see the detachment here. I tell you that you have a solid group of members here that are very good at what they do. We as a group of officers here definitely want to serve and protect the community the best of our abilities. So, thank you very much. Yeah, if there's any questions, I can certainly respond to them.
Cool. Good. Thanks.
You're welcome.
So you can just hang around here. It's pretty fun night.
You don't want to.
Well, you can, I mentioned to him that you could stay for the first item on the agenda if he likes, in case council has any questions for the RCMP.
Good. Okay. Okay, item number 6 is comments from the public. Are there any comments on the public, from the public on anything that they would like to mention us on the agenda? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't
You
know.
want to identify yourself and then.
Absolutely. My name is Sean Wick. I serve as the senior pastor of the Gospel Chapel. Most of you, to some of you, you're newer, and as well to Staff Sergeant Day. It's an honor to finally meet you. Several of your members have spoken of you quite fondly so far. So
Thank
it's
you.
Nice to meet you. Welcome to our
Nice
community.
to meet you. Thank you.
Would you like me to stand? I'm
Yeah,
fine with
that's,
that.
that's good, yeah.
I wish to thank the council for this opportunity. I recognize that meetings can go long. I'm chair of the board of directors for the Evangelical Free Church of Canada, so I understand how meetings can sometimes become a tenuous thing. But I do wish to just take a couple minutes to address an item that is on your agenda, and that is to address the implications of the tax exemption recommendation for the Gospel Chapel Evangelical Free Church and how it will impact our involvement in the community. In the minutes that you obviously have stated July 11th, the council meeting regarding the permissive tax exemption review for 2022, stated that staff indicated that anything on church grounds that is being used for purposes of church-related functions have been removed from statutory exemption under BC assessment. This decision can be contested during the church's next assessment. I wish to speak to what we believe is a miscalculation or an error by BC assessment pertaining to the usage of our facilities and how it has led to a portion of our church facility being designated as Class 6 rather than Class 8. We will be contesting this with BC assessment. This has only just come to our attention. I recently got back from Europe on holidays, so it's been a busy few days as I've tried to come up to speed. Council is at with everything this issue. But we did feel that it was imperative to speak directly to council. What is on our church grounds is being regularly used for the purposes of church-related functions. This has been the case throughout our over 60-year history in our community, and it remains the case. We do not cease to utilize our entire facility. BC assessment, though perhaps through lack of clarity in our reporting with them, seems to be under the impression that only the sanctuary portion of our facility is used for church functions and or worship, and that the remainder of the facility sits vacant and is used as a rental facility. And that the breakdown of the Class 6 assessments with property use regarding the Gospel Chapel as listed in the request for a decision before council is as follows. Gospel Chapel Evangelical Free Church. The improvements that are not eligible for statutory exemption but are eligible to be exempt if council chooses consists of facilities available to rent. The renters are comprised of community not-for-profit organizations, recreational organizations, dinners, educational courses, weddings, and other celebrations. Separate from the worship area, these are the words used. The building also contains additional areas for rental use around the gymnasium, such as a kitchen, storage rooms, and several rooms and offices. I wish to briefly clarify with council our facility use and our definition of worship as a Christian denomination, and then to briefly address the sharing of our facility. We define worship as anything which involves discipleship or a growing in our understanding, our integration, and our practice of our Christian faith. Our Sunday morning worship services are only one piece of the whole of our faith practice, which we define as worship. Sunday school classes for all ages, Bible studies, fellowship gatherings, celebration meals, children's programs, junior youth programs, senior youth programs, young adult programs and events, seniors gatherings and services, men's events, marriage enrichment programs, counseling programs, groups which use portions of our hallways to regularly create dozens of blankets which are sent to BC Children's Hospital. Leadership meetings, trainings, and retreats, prayer gatherings, worship song evenings, celebration of events in the lives of our people, such as baby and bridal showers and weddings, meal preparation for those in need in our community, funerals, community outreach and service. These all occur throughout the entirety of our facility. Our office space is utilized for staff who facilitate these integral aspects of the life of our church and who also use those same offices for meetings with individuals from both our church and our community, often for counseling and prayer. We do not separate our office space from the functions which have been listed. These are some of the activities which we would define as worship in the life of the Christian and as church-related functions. It is far more than a Sunday morning gathering. We utilize our entire facility to accomplish these activities, these functions, and find ourselves at times actually lacking in space despite our large footprint. All this activity is worship to us as a faith community. Acknowledge or recognize any space that is, to quote the document, separate from the worship area. Our sanctuary is not any more a sacred place than the classrooms, fellowship rooms, youth rooms, and even our gymnasium, for worship occurs in all of them regularly. Our adult fellowship room and gymnasium have both been utilized at times for overflow, secondary sanctuaries, if you will, with a live feed from our Sunday morning worship service when we have needed space. Our entire facility is used by our church community on a regular basis for church-related functions. And the use of this facility has remained consistent for church-related functions, which we would define as worship. We disagree with, and as mentioned, we'll be working with BC Assessment. This, what we believe, misunderstanding, mislabeling, and therefore misclassification concerning our facility. And we wanted to be clear with council regarding the use of our entire facility so that you could hear it from the proverbial horse's mouth. Which brings me to the second topic I wish to address, and that is our sharing of our facility with our community. The BC Assessment has classified a portion of our facility as Class 6 as facilities which are available to rent. And I believe that this needs to be clarified for council's understanding. About 10 years ago, approached by community leadership to consider how we might better serve our community. As we have been recipients of tax exemption for many years, it went without saying that we recognize that our community has been exceedingly generous to us. More than simply wanting to reciprocate this generosity, our leadership desired to be more engaged with our community and to demonstrate in what we believe to be the most practical ways we could that we desire to be good neighbors and that we desire the betterment of our community and its residents. In other words, we wanted to be more involved than we had been. We wanted to help. It was made clear to us by our community leadership that one practical, immediate way we could help was by providing access to portions of our facility. We were initially approached to investigate whether we may be able to provide space to the YMCA. In fact, I still have a photo somewhere on Facebook with myself, Mayor Thiessen, and the head of the YMCA of Prince George when we were able to announce to the community that they were coming. It was made clear to us that there was a need in our community for what the YMCA could bring, and we went to work as leadership to see if we could help our community out. We could not alter our church-related functions, ministries, and programs which were occurring in our facility. This was a clear decision from the start that our leadership made. Every day, we have programs, ministries, and church-related functions occurring throughout the entirety of our facility. But as we deliberated, we did recognize that there were moments of pause in our normal weekly rhythm as a church, which might allow the YMCA to function, provided they could work with us and work around our schedule. That began a friendship with the YMCA, which lasted until they were able to find a more suitable permanent home. We agreed to share a couple rooms with them with the understanding that they could not impede upon our programs, functions, and ministries, and that we had full access to them for those functions. And we were able to let them use our gymnasium and kitchen as long as it worked in our schedule. When the issue of funding arose, I'm proud to say our leadership decided to sacrifice for our community and sought only to offset some of the costs of their presence as it pertained to janitorial and utilities. Indeed, we did not cover our costs, let alone wear and tear, because we saw this as simply another way we could serve our community. We began with this to see more opportunities to continue to help our community by sharing this space as we could, as long as our worship and church-related functions could go unimpeded. We soon became aware of the need for the local Air Cadet Squadron. We were approached again, and it did not take long for us to enter into a relationship with them. We're thrilled that they're able to have a home in our facility. Again, the Thursday evening meetings do not impede the church-related function of the facility. Even their usage of a small, what I believe to be 9 by 13 size office, we consider an aspect of worship as we see it as a way that we can serve our community, serving being a staple teaching of the Christian faith. Again, we have only sought to try to recover some of the costs in terms of janitorial and utilities, and are more than thrilled that we are able to serve our community in this regard. Carrier Security Services came to us and requested whether we might help them with a need in our community, as the need for daycare space in Bannerton is exceptionally high. Again, we saw an opportunity to serve our community And again, they had to agree that they could only use the room in a way which would not impede the regular function of our facility for worship and church-related functions, and they had to work with us in our schedule for that use. As before, in our agreement with them, we sought to only recover some of the costs of janitorial and utilities. We were then approached by a group in our community with a desire to find a location to play pickleball, which I have yet to appreciate, as a means of encouraging physical and mental health, and as they stated, a means they saw in which they could build community within Vanderhoof. They could not find a facility. Of course, we said we would step up. Their usage does not impede our regular schedule or church-related functions. And regarding costs, they charge a drop-in fee, which helps offset, again, only some of the janitorial expenses and heating costs, particularly when it's -30 and they desire to use our gym on a Saturday night. We continue to open our space to groups who need it as we are able. We do not seek them out. They come to us with their needs. The local school district has enjoyed the use of our facility, and other school groups from other communities, if they need a place, have found that they can approach us and stay on their way to a tournament across northern BC, and they have used our facility without cost. I recently retired as chaplain for our local RCMP detachment after 8 years. Many times we have hosted banquets for the detachments and their families. The facility and food we always provided free of cost, and we jumped without hesitation when a facility was urgently needed for a major debrief after the shooting incident last fall. For several years, we have without charge opened our facility to the Cops for Cancer team as they've journeyed through Vanderhoof. We want to serve our community. We were excited to offer our facility for the Minerals North Conference several years ago and allow our facility to be used continually in our community for funerals regularly, and at times for even some of the other church communities in our town when they require a facility of our size. Councillor Moutre a few months ago contacted me about the potential use of our parking lot if needed for an outdoor community event. I believe I might have laughed a bit online because it went without saying. Yes, we will share what we have without question because we want our community to benefit from our presence and to know that we care about them and desire to be involved. When COVID hit, we took it seriously. I wish to emphasize with council that during the pandemic, we adhered to all the restrictions willingly. We strongly encouraged our people to do the same in their personal lives. Doctors Khan and Campbell can testify to my personal conversations with them regarding our unwavering support of our medical staff, our district leadership, and of our commitment to doing our part to keep our community safe by following Dr. Henry's guidance and adhering to all restrictions regardless of the cost. We wish to communicate this to show that we took a firm stand in opposition to the political stances taken by some other religious groups in our community. Indeed, we have actually lost members due to our unwavering conviction to protect our community and do our part. Our priority wasn't to keep numbers, our priority was to be a good neighbor. In fact, our church purchased 300 $20 gift cards, which we distributed to our local first responders as a means of encouraging them. Excuse me. As a means of encouraging them in the midst of that difficult time. Our desire was to keep our community safe and stand with our community and its leaders and support our medical personnel and first responders who gave so much during those difficult years. We have opened our church facility to the community on request from the community. We only welcomed these groups starting 10 years ago, give or take, because we wanted to help and we were asked to do so. We did not seek them out. We did not seek any renter groups.
Sean, I've got we're given a time limit. Are you almost done there?
I am. I apologize.
Okay. No, yeah,
We're not making money. We're not renting our facility as might be normally defined. We share a few rooms. We received $11,000 from these various groups last year, not including our janitorial costs. Our utilities were just under $34,000. We are a church. We regularly use our entire facility for worship, all of it. Our building has not sat out empty and unused. We have not proactively looked for renters. We have responded to our community's request for help. We will be addressing this issue with BC Assessment, but we need council to understand that we cannot afford to continue to serve and partner with our community in the way we have should the taxation exemption recommendation concerning the Gospel Chapel be adopted as presented. We are concerned that in responding to the needs of our community as presented to us, we have placed ourselves in an untenable situation. We want to continue to be good neighbors, to be deeply involved, and to practically show as best as we can that we care about our community and our neighbors. But above all, on behalf of our leadership, we want to thank you as council for your years of generosity. We want to thank our community for the years of generosity they have given us in the tax exemption status that we have received. We do not take it for granted. And we hope, and I do apologize for the length, we hope that we have demonstrated to you that our desire is to continue to respond to our community and its needs with that same level of generosity and to increasingly show in practical ways our intention to be good neighbors. So we ask for your understanding and we continue trust and for council's support so that we can continue to serve and respond to the needs of our community. Thank you for your time. I apologize it was lengthy.
Okay, thanks. Yes, do you have a question?
I have one question while everybody's here. Sean, do you know if any of the churches have contested or challenged Class 6 to Class 8 yet?
I only found out about this last week.
Okay, so this is relatively,
New to us.
it's new. Okay, that's what I needed to
And
know.
I think that's what we need to know. And I guess to me is we used to have a thing that said 2-minute questions. I appreciate
I
Sean.
apologize.
No, don't apologize.
No, don't apologize. I think you gave a good overview of where we are. Does anybody else have a short comment? You know, not to repeat kind of, but I see North Side and the Roman St. Joseph's. Yes, Mark.
I just have one comment in that this is new to us, and I just found it today, and I'm here from what I was doing this. But it's interesting. I would say that we're quite different at Northside. I'm Mark Schmidt. I represent Northside Church. Our situation is quite different. But I will say that very much of what Sean said regarding Gospel Chapel will be true of the way.
Alex's. Do you want to comment anything for?
I would echo what Mark said, and I think Sean covered everything. Yeah.
Good. Okay, I think we appreciate you coming, and I'm going to tell you guys that you have no idea how interesting this meeting can be. So if you're certainly welcome to stay. Okay, thank you. I appreciate those comments. They're well worthwhile as we make our decisions going on. Okay, was there any questions? And nobody had any questions. Okay, other than, okay, 7.1, video surveillance policy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this policy is a follow-up to the March, I believe it was, council resolution requesting the privacy impact statement and the draft video surveillance policy be considered. So it is here for your consideration this evening. The Office of the Information and Privacy Commissioner has approved the privacy impact statement and the policy itself. It's here for your consideration. And Sergeant Day is here as well in case you have any questions for him about what CMP.
What's the wish of council? Do you want to make a motion, or do you want to ask the staff sergeant some questions about it?
I don't have a problem approving draft of policy.
The policy is attached to adopt.
Sorry, are you moving that?
Yes, I'm moving.
I'll second that.
To adopt.
To adopt, okay. Can I just add a little summary for what's happened since I wrote this report? I just want to mention that this year, it's been vandalized 3 times on June 28th. When was it painted? Mid-June, I believe. It's vandalized June 28th, July 18th, and July 30th. And it's been repainted once and touched up twice. Summarize what's happened this year because that's not in the report. And Sergeant Day can answer, if you like, any questions about consequences for people caught. We have the camera. We haven't tested it yet. We're about to test it, hopefully, next week.
About a year ago, someone admitted to vandalizing the crosswalk, and there was supposed to be everything that happened. Well, it hasn't gone anywhere that I'm aware of, and we gave two names, Councillor Moutre and Councillor Young, that were willing to work on behalf of council on that. Could you check and see where that is on that?
Excuse me, I am aware that it was set for restorative justice. A vacancy, one of our vacancies. So of it was not possible at the time. Going forward, unfortunately, with restorative justice, it's as you know, it's like alternative measures. So as far as any charges would be concerned, Crown Council's not usually going to report after they've been offered restorative justice. Certainly look into it some more. That's the brief details that I know of in the short time that I've been here.
Is there any opportunity to resurrect the restorative justice with this individual? Obviously, the fact that he's admitted to, I think it's a he, admitted to it, means that there is a willingness, to work together with the community.
Certainly, as you likely know, with restorative justice, part of the basis of it is for that it be resolved in a quick manner. So unfortunately, we wouldn't meet that. However, that being said, absolutely, we can make some more efforts to advance it. Yes.
Other questions? Is there any comments that you have? Have you taken a look at this draft policy?
I haven't taken a look at it. I met with Lillian, right?
Mm-hmm.
We met and spoke about it. And I understand it's been approved, which is that's a good step in the right direction, I think. And perspective, I can answer any questions as far as what could be should we determine who.
So if an individual is caught vandalizing the crosswalk and identified, are charges automatically pressed against that individual for vandalism? How does that work?
If we can identify an individual that there's a couple routes you can go. So there's the Motor Vehicle Act, should it be vehicle related. Should it be a vehicle that's spinning out, let's say, seeing it that way. If we were to be able to determine either a driver, a vehicle, a license plate, police can investigate can investigate regardless. But if we do identify at least a vehicle, there is under the Motor Vehicle Act provisions to charge against the registered owner or the driver. Potential outcome. It's drive without reasonable consideration of others using the roadway, which is 6 points against their license and or $176 fine. Or a step further, depending on the circumstances, you could look at a criminal code offense of mischief. And so, of course, that's a much higher level. Crown Council would need a lot of evidence to proceed with a criminal code charge. That said, if we can determine have to be a driver, and obviously either admission or enough evidence to say this is what happened, like surveillance, anything like that. So yeah, there's a few ways that the police could proceed. Are they automatically charged? No, but the police recommend charges based on what they have. That's your
Yeah,
question.
it did. Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
There's also, sorry, if I may interject, also one thing I didn't bring up is if it's hate motivated, that's another level as well, in the sense that if Crown Council, if there was a criminal code charge brought before Crown, they approved it, they went to court, someone was convicted, if it's hate motivated, then the courts will look at that as an aggravating factor a lot of the time. So that affects sentencing.
So how can it not be hate motivated? If somebody defaced one of our churches here, it would be classified as hate motivated. So how could not, defacing a crosswalk?
I would agree on at face value. That's a very good question. But again, with the threshold in the courts, you need to be able to say this was what the reason behind the incident was for. So if there's hate behind it, then yeah, it's Crown would ultimately present that.
Question, or did I jump in?
Sorry, I have a question. If that's okay, just since I wrote the report. I'm just wondering with the word that was written on it the first time, someone wrote faggot on it. So if that's classified as a hate crime, what if it's a minor? What if it's a 12-year-old kid doing that? Like if the camera caught it and they knew who it was, because it's a small community, what would happen if it was a minor? Because in that case, like they wouldn't be driving, but under the Infant Act, they can go up to 19, I think. So what would happen then?
Yeah, the age of accountability under the criminal code is 12. So yeah, basically beyond that age, they could be charged. It's very unlikely because there's what's called the Youth Criminal Justice Act. And especially for first-time offenders under that act, we are to present alternative measures. It's on us to present that. So there's a lot of factors that come into play. But that being said, they're not getting away with it.
Right.
There's the rehabilitation hopefully side as well, that they learn through it and they don't.
I think that's why it's important for us to get somehow that restorative justice back in place and have that operating for, at least for our youth. There's situations like this. Some of the others, we talked about restorative justice for those who are 19 and up. I view that a little differently as I think a lot of us have come to feel it's more of a hate crime. I think it's really important. I think that's a good point when we talk about some youth being involved, have the restorative justice put in place, because we do know that the court system is really not have a lot of time to deal with some of those pieces, but we could definitely have some headway.
Absolutely. I agree. I'm an advocate of restorative justice, 100%. I agree.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thanks for your welcome.
Welcome here.
Thank you. Okay.
How we get rid of it.
Yeah.
The chairs, yeah.
The chairs, yeah.
Yeah.
7.2, Community Forest Reserve. Motion to adopt.
Move to adopt.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Permissive tax exemption review.
The council had requested that the 4 properties in question here be brought back with additional information for deliberation for exemption. The information that's in here comes from the application. That said, the Class 8 is statutorily exempt under one section, but the Class 6 properties can be exempt by council. Council can consider the the reasoning around as presented for the individual buildings and what the uses are, and they can decide to exempt the Class 6 portions as well.
Councillor Young, or Councillor Franco.
For a year, for a time frame, forever?
So I would like to recommend the council, once they make a decision on all the properties that are within the permissive tax exemption to be drawn for this year, that we do it for a term. So we do it 4 years, and that in each term, council review the properties that are on there. When we created this policy, it was to just check on the properties that were on there. We had added many properties onto the permissive tax exemption bylaw, but we never actually requested any information from any of the exemptors that are on there for many, many, many years. Once I received all the information, there are 28 properties on here. So it is a huge amount of information that likely we wouldn't want to review now that I see it every year. It would be cumbersome on all the properties as well as ourselves. Other communities do exempt the properties for a period of time, 3 to 5 years, and the bylaw can be written that way. So once this review is complete and council makes a decision, we can make it for a term and have the next council review before their term for the next 4 years.
I would look at the time and hearing what Sean and others have said tonight. I think we need to give the churches the time to challenge and contest with Class 6 versus Class 8. Did a great presentation tonight, which I think we all need to be reminded of at times of what the churches do. So I'm prepared to make a motion to give them the time to challenge that assessment, but I don't, that's why I asked the timing. I didn't know if we don't do anything tonight, it stays as is, correct?
The resolution can be that we carry forward and we do the permissive tax exemption bylaw as we have.
As we have in the past, then that gives the churches enough time to prepare and go after BC assessment with their argument, correct? Is that what I'm sensing?
And see, usually assessments come out in
January.
Yeah, but usually the classification one, isn't that in October-ish? That.
So once the assessment notices are sent out to the respective properties, they have a time limit on the back, if you read, to appeal the assessments that are on there. Usually it's for you can appeal either the amount it's assessed at, or you can appeal the class and have them re-look at the use under their definition of the use. So they're very specific on their definition of what is statutorily exempt and what is considered church property for worship purposes and that footprint, and what is classified as other exemptions that council has the ability to exempt themselves.
Councillor Murphy and Councillor.
No, that was my question, what Brian asked, what the time frame for the appealing.
Okay.
So that's been answered.
Councillor Young.
Yeah, I think in light of the conversation we're having tonight, I don't mind slowing this process down in order to understand because how BC assessment is going to go forth. Because what I find, and I think we've all found with them in the past, is yes, it'd be great if everybody went and contested this, but not everyone's going to be successful first crack. I know I sound cynical, but I don't know if they would be. We see that a lot with other assessment challenges. Mm-hmm. So I think it'd be good for us to keep that in mind, that we move forward as we have in the past, but knowing that this is coming and that we have a mechanism that the council of the day will understand. If our intent differs from what BC assessment is able to do, I think that was an important piece, is what is our intent? Our intent isn't the same as BC assessment. Yeah. So I think we will have to come up with a way to find a way to make that work. So I think we need a little more time until we're there. That's.
Yeah, and I want to say, I'm one of them, and I've gone to each of these three churches represented here and have asked them to make their buildings more available to the public in general. We don't have a civic center like that in Prince George or a hotel that has a big facility, and we've relied on our churches. I want to say the second thing is that we've collected financial statements. And I guess to me is because an organization, whether it's a church or another organization, is fiscally responsible and has some reserves, should not be a reason for us to take away the exemption. I know I've heard that quote. We wouldn't like it as a municipality if the government said, well, you don't qualify for this grant because you have some money in reserves. You know, and so the thing is, I think that. So I guess my comment back, Councillor Franco, you come close to making a motion of some type. Do you have a motion that you'd like to make, or that you sense?
I would move that we defer the decision and allow the churches of Vanderhoof to challenge the classification 6.
And would it come back for decision?
Well, they're gonna need that time till next year, so it's almost gonna be like 2024. No,
So they would
Trying to
get
think.
their assessment notices, cutoff is October 31st of this year. They would get their assessment notices for 2023 in early January. You can then file an appeal. The appeals are done up until taxes are almost calculated, so the adjustments can be made up till that time. If we created our bylaw as we had in the past, Class 6 and Class 8 properties for the churches would be exempt anyways. So irregardless of what happens at that level of BC assessment, they would be exempt for 2023. And this bylaw would not be reread until before October 31st of 2023 for 2024. So the changes can be made around September. It can be brought back. And at that time, council can consider the term and what would be exempt or non-exempt, but we can prepare it as we have in the past.
move to October 31st, 2023.
It also gives us the time to ensure the point that I was making, that we might have to put in some mechanism ourselves. So.
Yeah.
But
So is the resolution to,
Defer the decision, keep it the way it is, and
so can I have
defer.
a resolution to prepare the permissive tax exemption bylaw as it has?
So moved.
That's what,
Oh, no, we're gonna vote on the
Gotta
first
vote
one.
first.
Yeah.
For just 1 year, right?
Yeah.
As we have.
okay, all in favor? Opposed?
Now we'll make the motion for the resolution to prepare the permissive tax exception.
Okay.
I just have to say that, you know, irregardless of what BC assessment decides, you know, whether or not any appeal that is made on the assessment, I think we have to determine ourselves what we consider a valuable asset to our community. And I just wanted to comment on that. It's not always visible what happens in our church buildings, and but they do add value to our community.
Agreed, but it's clean, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say it's cleaner if it's all class 8 and then.
Yeah.
I agree,
It's
yeah.
done, right?
But if it is challenged and.
And to reverse and Councillor Loze's comment, and look, taxation's taxation, but how do we help you?
Yeah.
That's the question. How do we help you? Because BC assessment might not listen to you, Sean, sometimes, right? They're pretty big, but they may listen to, this is what the mayor asked for 10 years ago, and this is what you're delivering for us. So that's what we would, how do we help? So keep that in mind as we go forward through the process. Okay?
There's community partnerships at play.
Yeah.
So.
CBC's Tapestry this week had a great program exactly on community using churches. It might be worth taking a listen to get some points out of there.
Okay.
Sorry,
Yes.
could I clarify the motion before you vote? The second one? Are you including part 3 of the recommendation about the Ducks Unlimited and Freshwater Fisheries Society? And
Oh.
so you're doing part 1 and part 1 saying prepare the 2020 permissive as is. It's always has been. Ignoring part 2.
No, we're just preparing the whole bylaw, William, with
But the
all
third-
of
the third
with
section.
all of the properties
Okay.
as it
So
was
Ducks
in-
Unlimited
with
and all
all
that's
properties.
included.
All properties.
These are just the levels of exemption
Okay.
and the reasoning
Gotcha.
for them.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, council items. And I encourage you, don't only talk about places you've been, but things of where you're going in the future. So, isn't that what you wanted to say, Willie?
Community announcements, stuff like that, things that are happening. We don't really care where he's going.
I was gonna get there.
Okay, I'll try and keep this short. July 13th, there was a Rio Tinto public engagement meeting. I was attended that on the 14th, we had an environment committee meeting. On the 15th, it was kind of an interesting one. The new Cartachik watershed guys had a presentation with Dr. Hosey. He was talking about actually treating the water to get the nitrates out of it. There was a process, there was a couple of processes. One was including clay, which was really interesting until John de Ganges did a quick calculation of how much clay it would actually take to treat a lake that size, and it'll take a lot of work to see if that's actually within scope, but interesting talking nonetheless. 19th, the Second Watershed Roundtable co-chair meeting, sorry. On the 20th was the Northern BC Solid Waste Group. This is interesting. There's a couple of elected official voices, probably 4. The rest are mostly regional districts, workers that look after it. Interesting to see a lot of commonalities, some differences, but it'll be interesting to see where this group goes. It seems really good. A lot of idea sharing, a lot of, well, we did this, well, we did that, and that's great to see. 21st was the Minister Osborne was here, as I did spend much time with there some others, because I took some Rio Tinto guys around town looking at high water marks. Then went on a boat trip with them from Greer Creek to Chislada, looking at some of the reed canary infestation and issues such as that. On the 23rd was Concert in the Park. Decent attendance. It looks a little less when you're in Riverside Park than it does in Furland Park. But it was good. I think everybody seemed to enjoy themselves. On the 25th and 26th, Ron Monk from KWL was in town with a couple of his colleagues. Took him for a walking tour, looking at high water marks, looking at some of the ideas for flood mitigation that have been done in the past. And then the second day we spent on the water looking at properties from a couple of jet boats. On the 29th, I had a meeting. Wayne Selesky picked this up, and I joined him on a call with one of Mount Milligan's people, noticing that there's been a change where more regular shift employees are going to a 2-in, 2-out scenario. This was first offered where they had issues like metallurgists and other like really professional jobs where they just couldn't get the people. But now they had some of their regular shift guys saying, well, that's not fair, I need to be able to do it too. So they've opened it up. But this goes against the original concept of the mine and what was actually in their environment certificate, right? So we'll be talking about this. We have a C2C meeting coming up in the next month, so we'll push it there, but it might be something that council really has to get behind to push. Because as soon as you go to 2 and 2, you're going to get more people flying in, flying out. There's already been some families moved out of the area choosing to go to where they can just fly in for that purpose. And then the 30th had another NWR core committee meeting, and also we're planning for the river trip this coming weekend. If anybody's around for the barbecue afterwards, it's at 5 o'clock in Riverside Park. Should be good. There, last I heard, it was like 29 youth signed up for it. It's been done on previous years. It was the same youth on the Saturday and the Sunday. This year, it's going to be half on one day, half on the other, just to give more spots. Day 1 is from Braeside to Vanderhoof, ending with the barbecue here. Day 2 is going to be from Greer Creek to Fort St. James. Oh, it's Fort St. James, Fort Fraser. So that should be a really good time for those youth. But Day 2, they'll be working. It's a 50-kilometer paddle. That's it.
Councilor Lozey.
Okay. So on July 15th, I attended the Nechako Valley Primary Care Collaborative Community Table. And we, again, continued our discussion on men's health. And what we had decided is that we need to approach some groups in our community that are engaged with men 60 in that 60 plus group and ask some folks that are involved with that group to perhaps talk to the men that they interact with and find out what are some of the challenges for men's health and what are some of the ways forward that we can support men's health. So earlier I was talking to Councillor Frankel and Councillor Moutre and Councillor Murphy about that, and we'll certainly be reaching out to the church community as well, because I think there's a lot that you guys could input as well. So so that's what we discussed, and we're going to reconvene in September, and we're just on this discovery journey of how we can reach out to some of the men in that age group. So that was on July 15th. We had a housing committee meeting on July 20th, and we had a presentation from the Appraisal Institute, which was very informative. And from that presentation, we are going to now look at having a discussion with our lenders, because appraisals for our property have a huge impact in our community, for housing going forward. So that's kind of what we did then. And I think that was it. I also joined Councillor Moutre on the river that was on the 26th.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting to see Vanderhoof from the river. That I said that was the best day on council. So. But it was what an amazingly beautiful community we live in, and it sure looks different from the river. And back to housing, I don't know if this would be the time, Your Worship, to bring up having some kind of a resolution from council on whether or not to go forward with our community engagement on housing in the fall that was presented at our community session.
How about you bring it up now, and then at the end of the council reports?
Okay.
How about if do you have a motion in mind that you would like to make?
Okay,
so the thing is I see a nod to the left.
I think Ethan had it written down as well.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
No.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
And so the thing is, how about after these reports, go in
Yeah,
and
that's
I will get a motion from yourself and Councilor Young. Okay, good. Councilor Young.
Yeah, I left my sheet with everything, so I'm trying to cobble it together. The 21st, we did meet with Mr. Osborne and great visit at the surgeon facility. We had the opportunity afterwards also to take her to the VTCC and tour around, and she was very excited and impressed by that, and made some good connections there as one of her staffers. We had a board position on the Canadian Museum Society, so that's a really good thing. So we're going to keep in contact there. The 23rd, the concert park turned out great. My minor contribution was trying 3 times to get the movie to work, and we tried 3 different projectors and we finally got it going. So it was good. We had the same luck almost. And we'll get to that later. That movie's in the park, so it's been fun. The 25th, the mayor and I did meet already with Staff Sergeant Kevin Day. I think those of you in here tonight saw that we didn't go on at length. We've already had some discussions prior, have really interviewed him and find out what his interests are, what brings him to Vanderhoof in terms of what his passions are, and how he ended up back here after a long time away from this area. So it was nice to have a nice move open then, and we look forward to a good relationship here. The 26th also had the opportunity to be in the jet boat cruise. Really got to see some of our erosion factors as well. They're pretty scary, and just to understand that yes, the water was high this year, but it's been higher. It could have went higher, and to see the things that happened, the impacts there. Also to show those who really study the area where those ice jams were and all the other pieces that I think a lot of people aren't always privy to. And when you're on that boat on that river, you can definitely see why we shut down the boat launch. Because if we had people ripping up and down the last month, we would have some major damages there from wave action. So that was unfortunate, but we had to make sure that happened. Last week, we also had a tourism meeting. Unfortunately, due to lack of quorum, I met with Tracy, and I'm forgetting Tracy's last name. I apologize. McBride, should remember that. She is our new coordinator at the DTCC. What is it?
Tourism and Community Development.
Good, it's not just me. Told you it's a fancy title. ETCC plus another long title there, so it's gonna be hard for us to keep those together, but really good conversation, talking about some of the plans and visions she has, and she's really looking forward to working with council and the tourism committee to push some things forward. There's a lot happening there, and it's really exciting to see what we keep talking about the museum space being a real gem for a community, and now having that facility there is really up the ante. Let's see, and we also had a opportunity for some of the staff, myself, to meet with CKPG and talk about the BTC as well, and have a bit of a blurb on the history and how it came to be, and what we're looking forward to. We also had the movies in the park, as I alluded to earlier, and it was booked a little earlier by staff than normal, so 8:30 is not a time to watch movies in the north. 9:30 is more of a time when we have the sun still up in the air, and I wish I would have known they booked it either. Anyway, this next one will be later, and I'm so glad that I'm going to put a plug out. So Mr. Sam Holden was there to watch the movie, and for half an hour he played guitar and sang until it got dark enough, and we got the movie to work. So I have to give him some kudos for stepping up and doing that on being a community help there. And I've got a couple things I'd like to ask about, but should I do that later? Staff, I'd like to know who to talk to. We talked earlier about doing something around the pump park. No, I've already talked a little bit with Rip in the North, but we'd like to sort of move ahead. So I'd like to connect with staff this week and continue. They've been going back and forth, and we've sort of stalled out, wondering what official thoughts and T's and things to cross, but we want to get moving before it's too late there. And the other thing I want to talk about is food security funding and education related to the community forest.
This to me is there any way, like, we have our next meeting on in 2 weeks, isn't it?
Committee of the whole on the 15th.
Okay. So could you bring a resolution through Willeen and Margaret to the 15th? The community forest reserve.
Sure. And for the pump part, we could just continue a conversation and move forward.
Could you and Chad meet with Councillor Young on that this coming week? If you coordinate a time tomorrow, if you could talk to Margaret and set aside a time and then come back with a plan of action that we can discuss on the 15th. Is that
The 22nd, for the pump part?
just a
The
discussion?
agenda's to go out on Thursday, so.
I got some equipment coming in Friday, so I'm just, no, I'm kidding.
You want, okay.
Moving.
Okay, Councillor Frankel.
I'll try to be shorter than the rest of my cohorts. I was on holidays and meetings for 3 weeks. I'm done, thank you. Short enough for everybody?
Okay, that's short. One meeting, July 14th, the environment meeting. But I got some observations I'd like to throw out just for information's sake. You saw my text last week on the new audible signals at the crosswalks. I guess the question I have on that is, I got some concerns from Jerry, but are they going to be in all the crosswalks? From Stewart, Brard and Victoria Street, Highway 16 and Brard, and Recreation 4th and Highway 16. So they'll be consistent with the same.
Same audible. Yeah. Okay. I don't know, but I can find out.
Okay.
Interesting about Highway 16 because we don't have any control of the road. Hopefully it'll be similar.
And also on the east end of Stewart Street, we have that big sign that says Recreation Corridor and it's flashing ambers. On the west end of Stewart Street, there's no sign. And if you watch the traffic, there's a difference in speed going east and west, so maybe a sign on that end would be kind of bring it out a bit better. And the last thing I noticed the other day, I know the trees around town are in full bloom and looking really good, but I think it's time that we do some tree trimming. I saw a transport truck almost take some of the trees off by Cozy Corner, comes through there, so it's getting low there, so just some housekeeping. That's it, thank you.
Always put you in the out about those trees.
Well, I tell you what, there's lots of people that come in from Prince George, as Mayor Lynn Hall did on the 13th, and he can't believe our downtown Main Street, how good it looks. And yeah, it looks good, and thank you for that. I was on the 13th as well. That was when that public engagement meeting on the reservoir was in the evening, was involved with that. 14th, I met with the manager of YRB, and YRB has come to us with the opportunity of 2 cement washrooms that they're getting to us. The problem is that their fund may have a shortfall in it of transporting those. And so the thing is, but I think Chad or Margaret, I'm not sure which one, we have a spot for those 2 washrooms that I know I saw something circulated of places that they could go.
Yeah, Mayor Thiessen, one of the locations was at Highway 16 off of that.
And there now though.
There's one there now. It's not as nice as what they'd be donating.
We can into where we could put those, I'm sure there's.
Be good. I think they're short about 15,000, and and these things are worth quite a bit. What I understand, I think they're pretty valuable, to transport and setting them up. But I guess to me is I think it'd be worth it for staff to work with them, know that they can come back and we can find someplace in our reserves,
And I think one of the locations suggested was the head of the museum trail, which leads into all the bike trails. I think that would be a perfect spot for them because we get a lot of usage on those mountain bike trails. Not really a good place to.
There's that part, and then also near the dog park too.
Yeah, exactly. The dog park's there too. We can hit it all.
I think that would be a really good area to put one. Anyways, then on the 14th, I met with Northern Health, just regarding where everything was with healthcare. Met with Mr. Bill Blair on the 18th, just regarding emergency services. Mr. Osborne on the 21st, Regional District on the 21st, 25th, Kevin Dave, those are all things. 26th, we were on the water. 26th in the afternoon, Mr. Farnworth then met with us regarding emergency services, how to handle that. Certainly, the southern part of the province was in a lot worse area than we were, and by that time, our flood issue was gone down. 27th, met with James Simpson of the hospital, and I want to say that later on this week, I'm going to meet with he and Vice President in charge of Northern Health facilities regarding our primary care facility and how we can motivate that to get going. A thing, UBCM is doing a program on childcare, and they have the city of Richmond, the school district of Burnaby, and Vanderhoof are on childcare. And the process that we go and Mr. Wick kind of expressed a little bit of how we started off in childcare with the Y. And so that will be at UBCM this year. On the 3rd, met with RTA Did that. 6, I did the opening of the air show. Okay, I guess to me is later on this week, there will be a lunch hour meeting regarding the Resource Benefit Alliance. I said I need to get a date as to when. We'd like to have a discussion, maybe later on. I'm going to meet with TransCanada regarding just kind of some of the things that we've gone through at the airport. See that come to completion. And I will also be at the exhibition for the grand opening, and they've received some funding. So I think that's about it. And hopefully on Thursday's agenda will be hopefully funding for the bus at the Manor. The people at the Manor are really struggling right now. I'm not sure what to do for them. I understand that COVID is and very severe. And yeah, just as soon as it's over to be able you had a
Yeah. So at our committee of the whole meeting, we had a presentation from Jeff Cormos, who talked about, from Northern Health, who talked about helping with some community engagement on housing. So I guess what I'm looking for is council's approval to go ahead and host a one-day community engagement on housing with a budget to provide refreshment and stationary supplies, as well as the facility. The facility that we would like to use is our new prison. So I would need a
did you have a number there or a budget number?
no, we didn't have a number for budget.
So but there's a, how much do you think?
More than that for refreshments.
Well, what do you gain for refreshments?
Well, I'm thinking of,
Up to $1,000.
I would think
Okay.
so, yeah.
No more than $1,000.
No, okay.
Would you second that motion?
Yep.
Okay. Any discussion?
When do you have this meeting?
Well, Jeff suggested perhaps before UBCM. I'm not sure that's feasible. I'm thinking at the end of September or, yeah, after UBCM.
Yeah, it's gonna get tough. It's gonna get
I would think.
crowded
so,
there, but
yeah.
the big thing was to get more community, to have some voices there. We've met quite a while with the smaller community, but it'd be good for some of the other aspects that we haven't really touched on. And we know those voices are out there.
Yeah.
And so they want to.
Yeah, yeah, and I know there was some concern from council about getting a report back to council, and we would think that the turnaround for the report would be quick.
Mr. Freeman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just for clarification, Councillor Lozay and Councillor Young, what was the budget that you wanted for this event?
You said up to 1,000, yeah, just now.
Any other questions, comments? Yes,
Would
Councilor.
that be a weekday?
Yes, well, we're thinking of a day. I in my mind envisioned it Saturday.
A weekend.
Yeah.
No, that's better. I was just gonna say, if it was gonna be a weekday, it'd be good to have some sort of an alternate process for people that can't make it.
That's right,
Yeah.
yeah.
He also talked about, you might have to finalize, remember he also talked about having that smaller.
Yeah, oh, yeah, in the morning.
Focus group
Mhm.
with, some that go further on that have projects and talk to them.
Yeah.
And so there'd be that, and then I think we better check with Kevin though, because he's doing this as part of his role. I'm not sure if he could do it Saturday, because he didn't clarify on that.
He did not, no.
You'll
That was
you'll
my
work it out.
vision, but we'll work it out. But yeah, we certainly want to target as much of the community
Yeah.
as we can and make it accessible to everybody, right? So,
All in favor? Opposed?
okay.
Carried. Is there anything else?
No.
Did you have anything else, Councilor? No.
I brought the both up on those pieces.
Yeah, good. Okay, 54th Exhibition Community Bus.
So
Chat.
the Chaco Valley Exhibition Society has requested that we run our bus on the weekend for the event. We don't, in discussions with the director of operations, we don't think it would cost more than $1,000 to do the weekend. The Exhibition Society has also offered to pay $500 towards the offset of the wages and to pay us for the cost of the fuel used by the bus.
Make a motion that we,
I'll make the motion that we support this.
Second that.
any discussion?
Something that could come out of COVID funding?
We could, yes.
So can we add that to the motion?
Up to $1,000 if the director said 15 and they were going to put in, just support it in general.
I guess, do we want to support it, or do we want to ask them to reimburse us for some or fully support
I
them?
think if it can come out of COVID, we can do it. Don't you think that?
Yeah.
Yeah, if it can come out of COVID, I think we should just do it. Add in the motion there, Ethan? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, UBCM, BC assessment. Do we want to meet with BC assessment? Yes.
I move we want to meet with BC Assessment, and we're going to talk about Class 6 and Class 8.
I'll second that.
A lot more than that.
Yeah, I'm sure we will, but I mean, that's how we.
Lots going on.
In favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, official opposition. Want to meet with the official opposition. You?
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to make that motion?
I move that we meet with the official opposition.
Seconder?
I'll second it.
Yes.
So
Thank you.
is there any topics that the council wishes to discuss with the official opposition?
Or just a meet and greet.
Can I ask for clarification as well? Is it with Kevin Falcon or is it with the caucus? Because I'm in favor of meeting with Kevin Falcon, he's the leader. I don't know if we need to dive down into every minister.
I would like to meet with Kevin Falcon as well. And if he wants to have some other
Whoever
people
there,
there,
yeah.
that's fine. But the thing is, I want to make sure that we meet with him. He called me the other day and he's really interested in what's happening in this area. And so the thing is yeah, so that's what I would want. And I think we need to talk to him about our kind of three main things: healthcare, housing, and
When we talk housing, though, we really have to wrap that infrastructure piece around with that, because that's what we need help with, is infrastructure. Like, at least a major component, right?
Yeah.
And that's gonna be the big dollar one across the province, so if we can get in his ear early, or whose every year we can get into, that's important.
we're already trying to meet with Mr. Rankin. And
Yeah,
so we're
but just keep-
basically taking those same
Yeah.
topics that we already are going to talk
Just-
to. And,
It's the same message. Sure, it doesn't matter who. Make sure it's the same message.
the motion on the table now, don't we, Ethan? Yeah. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. The Minister Commission staff people, corporation, I can't think of anything.
The only one would be the ALC, and that's a commission. I'm just not prepared to put something on the table yet to